Hey, 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 guess who's back? Who's back? It's Wezesha Wednesday. It's been a while since I did this Wezesha Wednesday. I don't know, I know it was after the Euros and, England lost and, then I went into depression and I couldn't hack it, but I just came from Kenya a week ago, home 254 represent. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to guest lecture at USIU Africa and to talk to a number of students and a number of people about mid-career moves. And I thought, hey, what about Wezesha Wednesday? I haven't done it in such a long time, and this is a really good topic for Wezesha Wednesday. So I came back stoked and ready to resume Wezesha Wednesday. Then I got lazy, but today I said I must do it. So what's Wezesha Wednesday? Wezesha Wednesday is my poor attempt to motivate people on a Wednesday. Sunday we get motivated by church. Monday we start the work, and then by Wednesday we're just like going downhill. So Wezesha Wednesday is a way to sort of motivate people to stick to their goals and to accomplish their goals. Over the past few months, we've done a lot of things. We've most recently we talked about early career and making decisions. Let's say you're a college student or an early career person. What are some of the things that you need to think about? A good framework to sort of think about as you enter career. So that's on the most recent Wezesha Wednesday. We've done Wezesha Wednesday on mental health. We've done Wezesha Wednesday using the Fumble framework, which basically helps you accomplish your goals. You face your fear, you get unstuck, you fix your mindset, you be bold, you hone in on your leadership skills, and you execute. So all those Facebook Lives are on the Wezesha page somewhere. How do those people do it? Point at the bottom, subscribe. That doesn't exist yet, but coming soon. Anyway, so why am I here? Today I want to talk about mid-career. So you're in your mid-career and you want to figure out how to advance to the next level. And I think this, I did a panel discussion a week ago, and someone asked me, what would you tell your younger self? And that was a tough question because I think I know everything, so I would not tell my younger self anything new. But no, I did say this though. I said, as you go through your career, at least for me, there's not that many technical obstacles that I haven't been able to overcome, right? Because you know I can sit down, I can learn, I can figure it out. With the help of a lot of people, I can do things that performance wise make me perform better. However, the biggest obstacle I've faced is myself. How do I view things? How do I hear things when I receive feedback? How do I respond to it? And I blame a lot of it on Kenyanism, right? Kenyans, we think we know everything. So when your manager says, but you're not good at this, then you're like, Allah, no, what do you mean? So that was what I told the folks last week. And so I wanted to give an example of something that happened to me a few years ago. I won't give you the whole history, but basically, my manager said, "Bro, you need to figure out how to maneuver this mid-career, advanced career thing because you're trying to use the same toolkit that you had in your early career, and you're trying to use it for your mid to advanced career leap, and it's not working." So the best advice he told me you need to talk to a few people who are that advanced career and ask them to tell you about how they navigate the advanced career section. Oh, the advanced career. And that was really good. I think, at that point in time, I was like, why are you telling me this? Kwani, you don't think I'm a good worker, blah, blah, blah. But what he was actually telling me was, or what he was helping me with was to say, the tools that you use are not the same tools that you're going to need as you advance in your career. And so that's what I want to share with you. I want to share the feedback I got from many interviews that I conducted with all advanced career level people just to understand as they run their teams, how do they manage to stay relevant in their advanced career. So I'm going to share those with you. Okay. And so I interviewed these people. I got all these, asked them many questions. I put, tens of pages of notes. Then I summarized it into 6 or 7 things. So I'll share those with you. The first thing I learned, so this is very important. Again, this is not for early career people. This is not even, as you make a leap from early career to mid career, this is not necessarily the toolkit I'm telling you about. This is more so as you're going from mid career to advanced career, right? So you're making that big leap. The first thing I wrote over here, like framework, was be accountable to your board of directors. Be accountable to your board of directors. And that means you have to identify your board of directors. You have to create a stakeholder map to identify your board of directors. And then you have to set expectations with your board of directors. So what does that mean? Oftentimes, especially at mid-career, we have a very good idea of our stakeholders, of the people we need to influence, the people we need to talk to. We have good negotiation skills, we have great communication skills, and we can actually get things done because we're able to motivate our stakeholders to align with us on our objective. But when it gets to advanced career, the stakeholders are important, but what's more important is who are those board of directors? Who are those decision makers for whom you need to inform and who you are accountable to? And a good example I give is, at Google we have Sundar, right? Sundar is, I think, the greatest CEO of all time because of the way he talks to us. Like he talks to us in such a sincere, natural, empathetic voice. Really great. And you really get motivated by that. But Sundar is accountable to his board of directors. And the same language that he uses for us is probably not the language that he uses with his board of directors because the expectations are different. The expectations are very metric driven, very KPI driven, very performance driven, and he's carrying a multi-billion-dollar company in his hands. So the way he engages with his board of directors is completely different from the way he engages with us, his stakeholders. So that's the first thing I learned was, okay, not I learned, but from this interviews was, who are my board of directors? Who are those people who are let's call them the VIPs? I'm accountable for providing updates to them. I need to force updates to them so they always know that I'm keeping them informed. And I have to be emotionally detached. That means the board of directors don't have to love me. The stakeholders have to love me because that's how I get stuff done. But the board of directors, I have to be able to report like a reporter, completely detached, very objective, but then I have to keep them informed. I have to work closely with peers so that we're sending the same message to the board of directors. I need to find out from the board of directors, what do they need? I need to keep asking them for feedback. I need to keep asking them what they need from me. And I need to make sure that we're on the same page and ensure that they're hearing the same things from me that they're hearing from others. So how do I summarize that? As you think about the leap from mid-career to advanced career, try and figure out not who are those, stakeholders that you need to please and, keep calm and peace with them because they're going to help you. You need to identify the board of directors, the ones who, for them, the most important thing is running the company, and how is it that you can help them run that company. And that engagement, it has to be completely different. Do not treat your board of directors like stakeholders. Do not treat your stakeholders like board of directors. So that's one. Second thing is you own the narrative. What does that mean? That means you're the one who decides how your job's going to happen. Make sure that you have the fundamentals of your role right. What is the requirement of this job? I think oftentimes we get very emotional about the job. Well, I love this. I like doing this. I'm passionate about this. This gives me purpose. But is that your job? It's extremely difficult, especially if you have a value system that tends to pull you towards something that's not your job. to be able to distinguish between what's your job and what you want to do. So the second thing about owning your narrative is make sure you have the fundamentals of your role right. Understand your role, because in America, the job is the most important thing. That's what I was telling students in Kenya. You know, the first time I heard it's my job was when I came state role. That's how seriously people take their jobs. So if you've been given a job, make sure you have the fundamentals of your role right. Make sure you set expectations. Make sure you know what the metric is. What is the measure for performance for your job? Make sure you're singing off the same hymn book as your leader when it comes to the expectations of the job. Again, I'm talking about owning the narrative of your job. If something is not working, address it immediately. And that's a weakness I have. I tend to linger, I tend to try and solve it myself. Address it immediately. Don't be afraid to reduce scope so you can go big. Oftentimes we feel, okay, the more I'm able to do, the better it is for me to advance to the next level of my career. But sometimes it's not the more that you do, it's the diamond in the rough. It's reduce that scope so you can really, really perform well in that one thing that's really going to take your career to the next level. And always paint a picture of what success looks like. I know every job is different. And again, that's why I'm really tailoring this conversation to those going from mid-career to advanced career. What does success look like? What does that outcome look like? Both in the way you'll be able to tell the story of that outcome and also in objective measure and key performance indicators and metrics. How will success look? You own the narrative. That's number two. Number one was accountability to board of directors. Number two is you own the narrative. Number three is a personal struggle for me. Even today, I still struggle with this, is feedback is a good thing. I know they say feedback is a gift. I don't think it's a gift because sometimes feedback I'm given, I just hate it. So what I rephrase it is feedback is an opportunity. You have to understand that it may be difficult for your stakeholders to provide timely feedback. So sometimes the people who owe you feedback, they hold back. You know, they're like, oh, Ichi's a nice guy. How will I tell him? But then, and they treat you with kid gloves. But then a time comes now when they're ready to give you feedback, they just diarrhea it, or just, that's not a good word to say. They vomit it, right? Like they just give you all at once. Have any of you been in that situation where you thought things were going well and then suddenly you got into a performance management session information and suddenly someone told you all these things and you're like, why didn't you tell me before? Why didn't you tell me when there were little things? Why did you wait until there were big things and then tell me all this? So sometimes your managers, your directors, your VPs, your sponsors, your mentors, sometimes in trying to protect you with those kid gloves, they get to a point where they just let it all out. So how do you do that? How do you avoid that? Is always ask for feedback and always provide feedback. Hey, I'm going through this. How should I do this? Don't hold back. You know, Adam Grant really, I remember this topic he had with Brene Brown. They were talking about discerning between task conflict and relational conflict. I think I've talked about it before. But as a reminder, task conflict is focused on the thing that you're doing wrong. Relational conflict is focused on the relationship and how that's going wrong. And oftentimes we confuse the two. Just because my manager tells me I'm doing something wrong, that doesn't mean that he hates me. He's telling me about the task that I'm doing incorrect. Just because a manager tells me, hey, Ichi, you know, you could do better here, doesn't mean that she's against me. It just means like she's trying to give me an opportunity to improve. And that's something I personally have to deal with and say, this is a task related feedback that I'm receiving versus this person hates me. Now, there's a responsibility a manager has to create a safe space so that when they give you feedback that is task oriented, right? You haven't done this, you should do better on this, that we don't take it personally. But it's on us to be able to discern between task and relational. Don't take it personally and try not to get defensive. I know I'm saying that, but I'm the worst at it. I take everything personal when it comes to feedback because I'm so passionate about my job and the things that I do. So when I read anything or I'm told anything that goes counter to how I think I've been performing, it's a huge thing and I need to work on it. Be respectful. Ask, what am I not seeing? I thought this is how it's supposed to be done. Ask for the data. Say, okay, I get it, but this is what I thought success looked like. Does it look like something else? Help me, tell me what success looks like so you can actually be on the same page with your leader. Sometimes, a VP of mine once said this, sometimes it's through feedback that your leadership is demonstrated. Oh, wow. Where are my people? Rosemary Boro, Cecilia Zuka, my friend Catherine. Sometimes it's through feedback that your leadership is demonstrated. Feedback sometimes signals a pivot point. And so when that feedback happens, the way you respond to it, the way you react to it, and what you do with it demonstrates how true a leader you actually are. So getting feedback is not a bad thing. Sometimes it's a demonstration or helps you to demonstrate your leadership. And sometimes feedback signals a pivot point, right? At the end of the day, a decision needs to be made. Am I still staying on this course or am I changing course? And so sometimes feedback is good for you to, maybe help you make a decision. Maybe this is not the right fit for you. Maybe this is not the role for you. Maybe you need to change to a different organization. Maybe you need to do something different. So feedback also signals a pivot point. So the way you respond to feedback will determine advancement of your career. And then obviously sometimes it's wrong, right? Sometimes someone says that you've done something incorrectly, but you know it to be true. Correct the narrative with data and facts, not feelings. Correct the narrative with data and facts, not feelings. And balance your emotion. I think, who was it? I think it was Michelle Obama. I can't remember what it was. I don't know if it was something on TV or something I read or a video I saw. And she was just dropping nuggets about how she had to balance her emotion when campaigning the first presidential election that Obama ran for. Because there's so many things she wanted to say, but she couldn't say them because she knew by saying them, it would be a lose-lose for her. So she had to balance her emotion. She had to take all this feedback that she's getting, everything people are saying, criticizing her, how she looks, how she talks, everything. Balance her emotion and then use that feedback as an opportunity to progress because she had a bigger end game. So, number 3, feedback is an opportunity. Let's start again. Accountability to your board of directors. You own the narrative. 3, feedback is an opportunity. Number 4, keep your stakeholders informed. Are you the type of person who, like me, like you'll do things chinny, like in secret, and then suddenly the big reveal, right? Like HGTV, boom, here's the room. Yeah, that doesn't always work because as you're doing this work, people are expecting output from you. And by keeping it sort of quiet so that you can suddenly bust out the, hey, I've done this, is not necessarily a good thing. 80% of your time should be spent on stakeholder management. If you have plans, tell people along the way. Remind them and tell them over and over again. Most importantly, stay on track and deliver. If you have a project that you have to deliver at a certain point in time, don't keep it quiet and then boom, oh, I've delivered. Along the way, talk through, create a cadence, a governance process. I talk about a lot about governance. How do I make decisions? How do I inform people? How do I communicate? Make sure that that's part of your governance process so that every week, every month, every quarter, you're providing that information. Stay on track. Always tell people, especially the important people, what you're focusing on. So if you have a one-on-one with a very important person, VP, whatever, hey, this is what I'm focused on. This is why it's important. This is where I'm at. I don't need you right now, but when I need you, I will let you know and move on. Next week, this is where I am. I think you have to think about especially as you advance in your career, the people that you engage with have less and less time. So you have to create a process where you're always feeding them information. If it's every Monday on a stand-up call, every Monday via newsletter, every Monday via email, you want them to always expect to receive something from you, because then they can always remember, oh, this guy, yeah, Ichi, he's 17 levels under me, but he always provides input on what's going on, always tells me what's going on. I feel more empowered to make decisions because of the insights that he's providing. Remember, if you don't tell them what you're doing or what you're focused on, they will then make a decision on what you need to focus on. And that's not what we're trying to do when we talk about advancing our career. Make sure you demonstrate impact. How are you demonstrating impact? When I was talking to the students at USIU, I told them two things. Either you're bringing in money or you're helping the company spend less money. Like, those are the two biggest measures. And then underneath that, there's, different KPIs that help and then build up to those two. So I want you to, actually, this is a good question, and maybe someone will answer in the comments. Today, how are you demonstrating impact in your job? If someone asks you that, it may not be easy to articulate because you're like, yeah, but I only do tasks. I don't have projects. I just do this, that, and the other. But I want you to spend time and I can help you, spend time and really think, okay, if someone were to ask me, how am I demonstrating impact? How can I say it in a highly quantifiable way that they're like, hey, this person is ready for the next level, right? It's hard to say. You probably have to write it down. We have to refine it. And then you give that statement of purpose as, hey, what is my job? My job is to deploy machine learning capacity so that people can access, any of our machine learning services and bring in revenue, whatever, right? I haven't made that. Half of that is true, but figure out, okay, what is my statement of purpose and how does it demonstrate impact? So that's number 4. 5, if you're a manager already, okay, so this is, if you're a manager already, you have to nurture your brand through your team. People have to look at your team and be able to identify you and say, wow, yeah, that team belongs to that manager. Your brand should be seen in your work. Your brand should be seen in your work, in how well you perform, how you ask questions, how thoughtful you are, your decision making, your discernment of what needs to be done. If your team follows the same principles you do, then you're building your brand. What is your team's mission? What's your team's remit? I've had multiple teams over multiple years, and I always sit down, we go through mission, vision, value, right? What's our purpose? And we write it out. What's our vision? We write it out. What's our mission? Write it out. Most importantly, what are we here for? What's our purpose? Like, it has to be a very pragmatic sentence. One of the best books I read on that, by the time this live is done, I'll tell you, but it really talked to mission, vision, value, purpose. So if you manage a team, it is important to build your brand through that team. As a manager, you can't let your guard down. Someone is always gunning for you. Either other managers are gunning for you or your people are gunning for you. They're like, oh, this person is not a good leader. You always have to be ready for any questions about your team and the work they do. You have to be able to say, my team provides value in this way, A, B, C, D. And remember, the buck stops with you, not your team. You cannot outsource. If something goes wrong, you can't say, yeah, it's because, Ninang and Ya did something wrong. No, the buck stops with you. That is really, really important that you remember that. Okay. Oh, and one more thing with managers. Actually, I'll put it in the next one because it's not necessarily just managers. So, okay. So where have we been? Accountability to your board of directors. You own the narrative. Feedback is an opportunity. Keep your stakeholders informed. If you're a manager, nurture your brand through your team. The last one And I think this is probably the most important one because it signals your move from mid to advanced career is the ability to delegate effectively. It is very tempting to do everything by yourself. After all, you know everything. You know this work so well. Why can't you just do it? One of the things that we use when deciding what level a person is going to come in a company is how they go from doing the work themselves to creating opportunities for others to do that work. And that's what you're doing when you move from mid to advanced career. You are creating a capability that didn't exist, and then you're assigning people to provide uh, what's needed for you to get that capability, right? So it may be you've created a team or you formed a team that didn't exist because of a problem that needs to be solved, right? Then you can be the one, you know, hands and feet. I mean, it's great if you know the work because then you can articulate what you expect from the work. But more importantly is delegating effectively. So what does that mean? Wherever you are now, I need you to figure out how to be a better delegator. And I mean, it could be with the work you do, it could be at home and the things you do. Trust issues are huge. Like, okay, I want to, but this person will never do it as well as I can. And I think there's an answer for that. You start with giving small tasks, monitor, engaging, instructions, be more prescriptive, less coaching. But get to a point where you can delegate effectively because someone needs to be able to say, I'm going to promote Ichi and I know everything will be okay once he's been promoted because the work will continue because he's a great delegator. You need to identify people's strengths. One of the things that I always do in interviews is to ask, what is your superpower? So as you figure out to whom to delegate things, you're going to find different people have different strengths. So identify each of their strengths. Maybe one person has great communication skills, and maybe that's the person who you're going to mentor to be able to communicate and run meetings. Maybe another person has really high tech skills, and that's the person who's going to make decisions, technical related decisions on whether to move, shift left or right, right? Identify people's strengths. Not everyone is the same, and it's difficult sometimes to do so because you don't have time, but you have to create time. Even if you're not a manager, even if you're an individual contributor, have a habit of setting up meetings with people so you can know who to go to, right? I had an issue today, everyone was coming on me saying this thing is not working, blah, this thing has to be done. And I was so stressed and I'm like, I just can't do it. I don't, first of all, technically, I don't know how to do it, right? And then I thought, you know what? There's this guy called Matt that you and I, he and I, he's not on my team. We've never been on the same team, but I've had a couple of one-on-ones with him. And I reached out to him and I was like, yo, Matt, I really need your help. Could you do this? And he's like, oh, sure. He called me by my Gava name, Steven, right? He's like, yo, I could do it, right? So it may be tempting to think when I say delegate effectively, this only matters to people who manage people. No, I'm talking about your stakeholder map that we drew. What are the strengths of those people? And delegate, help grow them because as you grow people, then you will grow to your next career. Be empathetic. Look, I've talked about leadership before. I've talked about the different forms of leadership. Empathetic leadership is like the number one thing that counts for me. Be empathetic and translate that into true compassion. Really care for people. I know it's tempting to say, well, those people who make it big, maybe they have no compassion, no empathy. Okay, that's them. I'm talking about you. As you're growing your career, it's obvious to people that you care about people because of the empathy you have. Treat your team with love and respect. Look, it may be temporary. Like I said, I've had, a really long career. And in the long career, I've had multiple teams. I've had to form teams, you know, I've had to let go of teams. Like that's part of the jobs that I've had. But every time, even though it's going to be a temporary relationship I have with these people, I have to show them love and respect. You show people love and respect, they'll never forget you and they'll be willing to go out for bat for you. But here's other things that you need to know, both as a manager or if you're delegating things to someone. Ensure the right people are in the right roles. The worst thing is to rely on someone to do something when they can't do it. And I have something I learned a long time ago. This applies more to managers, but I think it's also applies when you're delegating things. If someone's not doing something, what are the reasons why they're not doing that thing? And there's at least three, but there's more than that. One, are they unable to? That means they just don't know how to do it, and so you have to train and skill them, right? um, are they unable to? Are they unwilling? If they're unwilling to, what are you going to do? Like, if they literally don't want to do it, then they don't want to do it. Don't waste your time trying to skill someone who's unwilling to do it. And there's another one. Gosh, let me look at my notes from before. So let's see. Okay, so yeah, so actually here it is. So are they unaware? If they're unaware, you have to set expectations. Oh, I didn't know that's what I'm supposed to do. Set expectations. Are they unable to? We talked about them. Tool or skill them. Are they unsuited? That means they're in the wrong role, right? So you have to say, oh yeah, this person is actually better suited in this role. Then the fourth one is, are they unwilling? If they're unwilling, then there's nothing you can do except performance manage them. So you need to know your team, ensure the right people are in the right roles. Who needs a mentor? Who are the key people you can delegate to? How do you get the most out of them? And that applies to stakeholders as well. If you're an individual contributor, meaning you don't manage a team, you need to be able to scan everyone and say, okay, this is the person I can rely on for this, that's a person I can rely for that, and delegate effectively. If you're a manager, does your team know your vision? And I learned this the hard way a couple of times. You talk with your team and you motivate them and you write things down and you walk away and you think, yes, everyone's aligned, everyone knows my vision, everyone's going to walk with me. Then you find out 2 days later that either they've forgotten your vision, they're not aligned, they're not on the same page as you are. Can I tell you guys something? Whether you own a business, you're managing people, or you're an individual contributor, you have to constantly remind people what it is what the vision is, what the purpose is, what the mission is, what the values are. You have to constantly remind people, because people are busy and they have other priorities, and sometimes they forget, and sometimes they don't align with what it is that you're trying to do. So, does your team know your vision? Be cognizant that they may not know your vision. You have to trust but verify. You have to spot check by asking questions. Every once in a while, you need to ask questions to see if they're aligned with the vision. You don't have to have the right answer all the time immediately, but meaning if they have a question about the vision, but you need to constantly ask them. And this especially applies to business owners. I know we've talked about self-employment versus entrepreneurship. Those of you who are self-employed, I mean corporate employed versus self-employed, I see it all the time. You think everyone understands your vision, but they don't care about, oftentimes they're in for a paycheck as well. Okay, so you have to do that. So as I wrap up, I will go through them again. Mid-level jump to advanced level. Identify your board of directors and know that you're accountable to your board of directors, not just your stakeholders. You own the narrative. You're a reporter telling your story. You have to be okay with not fluffing, but coming through with telling your story and owning the narrative of what it is that you're doing. Always appreciate feedback. Feedback is, for me, is not a gift, it's an opportunity. And I love it when I heard, feedback. Sometimes it's through feedback that your leadership is demonstrated. What happens when you receive feedback, how you respond to it will determine a lot of things about your future. And so you always have to be cognizant of how am I going to respond to this feedback? Try to discern between task conflict and relational conflict. All right. So all that is in feedback. Four, keep your stakeholders informed. Don't try and be the person doing things behind the scene, then suddenly reveal, oh, the project is over. Find a way to constantly keep your stakeholders informed. If you're a manager, nurture your brand through your team. If you're not a manager, remember brand matters, right? So you have to brand yourself. People need to be able to say, yeah. What's her name? Dana. Yeah, Dana. Yeah, that's the one. That's the person we need to pick for the next project because the brand is so strong. And finally, delegate effectively. Always think if I'm advancing in my career, I cannot do the things that I used to do. I need to be able to turn around and delegate effectively. To delegate effectively, you need to create a mental map of every single right person in the right place. What's the skill set? What's going to stop them from doing something? Is it because they're unskilled, they're unable, they're unwilling, or they're in the wrong place? So you have to be able to, or unsuited, so they're in the wrong place. And I'll end with this. The authentic you will always win. The authentic you will always win. You always have to the extent that you're possible, to be authentic as you navigate this corporate life from mid to advanced level. Play your own game. Do I want to be like Mark Zuckerberg? Do I want to be like Larry or Sergey or Jeff? Like, you can drop all the names, right? And maybe even closer, there's people to whom you look up and say, wow, that's a great mentor, that's a great sponsor. But play your own game. What's your game? Is my game to advance? Is my game to make more money? Is my game to gain more knowledge? Is my game to exit and have enough money to start up a company? Whatever that game is, play your own game. Be humble enough to learn and to ask. And I know that's a tough one to say. If I ask, what if this person thinks I don't know? Imposter syndrome comes in, it kicks in. But be humble to learn and ask. Try and figure out a way to be able to ask without feeling bad about you asking that question. And I think, a couple of principles that I've had for, I would say, almost my entire life, but especially when I came state tour, was tough times don't last, but tough people do, which means even as you're going through your career, tough times are going to come. You may have to take a pay cut. Maybe you have to make a lateral move. Maybe, you try and go for promo and then you're not promoted, you get rejected. So these two things go together. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. And the second thing is everything happens for a reason and in its season, right? So maybe this is not the right time for you to be promoted. Maybe it's the next time. So always keep that in mind. As you navigate, you're going to find people who go faster than you up the rank. And you're going to find some people who you came in and they were already where you are and you've already passed them, right? The season is not right for everyone. And then the last thing I'll say is be okay with exiting stage left. Someone once told me that and I was like, what do you mean? I've poured my heart and soul into all this. Okay? Was it Kenny Rogers who said, you gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run, right? So you have to be able to, thinking about what I said in one of my earlier things, like, don't take it so personal when it comes to your job. You need to say, that was my job. That's what I was doing for that moment in time. I'm exiting stage left because I'm looking for something different. So I know it's been a while since I did Wezesha Wednesdays. I felt compelled to come back. I know Catherine Odera will be so happy to see me. Yeah. I'll try and be more consistent. I don't think I'll be able to do every week, but I'll try. We're getting towards the end of the year and I feel a deep desire just to talk about things as we prepare people for 2025. So mid to advanced career. Hopefully, this Wezesha Wednesday helps you figure things out. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me. You can write a comment, you can email me, you can text me, you can WhatsApp me. But hope you enjoyed Wezesha Wednesday. Cheers. Have a good one. Bye.